They came to conquer, but they never expected to run in fear, from a child. The sky above Earth split open like a jagged scar, revealing a colossal alien armada. Dozens of ships, each the size of entire cities, hovered menacingly over major capitals. People screamed, cars crashed into buildings, and sirens wailed as the world descended into chaos. But in the small town of Havenbrook, life stood eerily still. No ships hovered overhead. No soldiers marched down its empty streets. Except for one. A lone alien scout, towering and armored in sleek metallic plating, stood silently in a wide field just beyond the town. Its black eyes flickered, scanning something, or rather, someone. In the middle of the field, a boy sat cross-legged in the grass, playing with a handful of pebbles. He was around 10, with messy brown hair and a distant look in his eyes, as if the chaos unfolding across the world didn't exist. The scout's visor blinked red. Anomaly detected. It spoke in a guttural language into its communicator. Target identified. Human child. Energy levels, off the scale. This is the source. Back on the flagship, the alien commander, a towering figure with glistening armor and deep, jagged scars, stood frozen, staring at the readings. A child, he growled. You're telling me the most dangerous energy signature on this planet belongs to a child? Yes, Commander, the scout replied. But, something is wrong. It feels ancient. The commander clenched his fist. This invasion was supposed to be swift. Humans were weak, fragile, unworthy opponents. Yet this child, was radiating power that dwarfed even their strongest warriors. Capture him, the commander ordered. Now. Back in Havenbrook, the scout advanced slowly. The boy, Daniel, looked up, finally noticing the towering figure. He didn't seem afraid. Hey, Daniel said softly, his voice calm. Are you here to play? The scout hesitated. There was something deeply unsettling about the child's calmness. It raised its weapon, aiming at Daniel's small frame. But before it could fire, the scout's body began to tremble uncontrollably. The weapon clattered to the ground. Its armored fingers clawed at its head as if something invisible was crushing it from the inside. What is this? The scout screeched, its voice distorted with pure terror. Daniel tilted his head, confused. Why are you scared? The scout let out a shriek before collapsing into the grass, motionless. Above, on the flagship, alarms blared. Multiple scouts sent to the field began to report the same thing, paralyzing fear, visions of destruction, and overwhelming panic, all triggered just by being near the boy. The commander's hands shook. Pull them back. Pull them all back. As the ships began to retreat from Earth's orbit, one lingering thought echoed in the minds of the alien soldiers. They hadn't come across a child. They had found something far more terrifying. The alien armada retreated into orbit, hovering silently above Earth like shadows of an unspoken threat. But within their colossal mothership, panic spread like wildfire. Commander Vrax, usually cold and calculated, stormed through the command bridge. His soldiers, fearsome, battle-hardened warriors, avoided his gaze. The reports flashing on the giant holographic screens were undeniable. An entire battalion neutralized, by a single human child. Vrax slammed his clawed fist into the control panel, cracking its surface. This is impossible. A child cannot wield that kind of power. Yet the energy readings were clear. Daniel was radiating levels far beyond anything their scanners had ever encountered. Commander, a lower-ranking officer stammered, our telepaths tried to probe his mind, but they couldn't. Instead, he hesitated, visibly shaken. Speak. Vrax barked. The officer swallowed hard. They saw visions. Destruction. Entire worlds consumed in flames. They said the boy's mind is ancient. Older than Earth itself. A heavy silence filled the room. The implication was terrifying. This child wasn't just a fluke. He was something far greater. Back in Havenbrook, Daniel sat alone on the field, the grass swaying gently around him. He clutched one of the pebbles he had been playing with earlier, tracing patterns in the dirt. He didn't understand what had happened. Why did that strange creature fall when he asked if it wanted to play? Why had the sky filled with so many dark ships, only for them to leave so suddenly? Daniel? The soft voice of Mrs. Collins, his elderly neighbor, broke the silence. She had seen the alien ship disappear into the sky and rushed to the field the moment it was clear. She found Daniel sitting quietly, unharmed. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked, her voice trembling as she knelt beside him. Daniel looked up at her, his big brown eyes filled with innocence. "They were scared of me," he whispered. Mrs. Collins paused. "Who, sweetie?" "The people from the sky." Her heart raced. She had seen the ships, the alien scout that had landed near Daniel, and how it had fallen without being touched. "You didn't hurt them, did you?" she asked gently. Daniel hesitated. "I didn't want to. I just felt scared when they pointed something at me." Mrs. Collins wrapped her arms around him, holding him close. But deep inside, a growing fear took root. This boy, this sweet, gentle child, had somehow made an entire alien army retreat in terror. And the most chilling part? He didn't know how he did it. Meanwhile, far above Earth, Commander Vrax wasn't willing to admit defeat. "Prepare the mind leech," he ordered. The officers on the bridge gasped. The mind leech was a forbidden device, designed to pull the deepest secrets from a being's consciousness, but at a terrible cost. "We will uncover what this human child is," Vrax growled. "Even if it destroys him." As the alien ship began its preparations, an ominous thought crossed Vrax's mind: what if the child wasn't the real threat? What if something even more powerful was watching over him? The next encounter would reveal the truth. And Earth's fate hung by a thread. A thick, metallic hum echoed through the alien mothership as the mind leech powered up, a relic from an ancient war, forbidden by most species for its cruelty. The machine pulsed with dark energy, resembling a massive clawed sphere, its surface covered in writhing tendrils that flickered with eerie blue light. Commander Vrax stood before it, his piercing gaze fixed on the spinning core. "Lock onto the child," he commanded. His science officer hesitated. "Commander, the mind leech was never designed to handle beings of that strength. If the boy's power is as vast as we suspect." "Do it!" Vrax roared, slamming his fist against the console. The officer swallowed hard and activated the device. Back on Earth, in the quiet town of Havenbrook, Daniel sat inside his home, playing with his toy soldiers. Mrs. Collins had brought him back after the incident, but something felt strange. His head throbbed. A deep, gnawing pain started at the back of his skull and spread like wildfire. "Daniel? Are you okay?" Mrs. Collins asked, noticing him clutching his head. I don't know," he whispered. "It feels like someone's calling me." Suddenly, his eyes clouded over, glowing faintly. His hands trembled as an unseen force tried to latch onto his mind. But deep within Daniel, something ancient stirred, a presence older than time itself. Inside the mothership, the mind leech strained against an invisible wall. Its tendrils lashed out, trying to penetrate Daniel's consciousness, but they met an impenetrable barrier. "Impossible," the science officer muttered, his claws flying over the controls. "He's blocking us." Vrax snarled. "Increase the output. Break through." The mind leech pulsed violently, emitting a low, guttural hum. Then, boom! The machine exploded in a blinding flash of light, hurling Vrax and his officers backward. Sparks rained down from the ruptured walls, alarms blaring across the ship. As the smoke cleared, a new presence filled the command bridge. A towering, ethereal figure hovered where the mind leech had been, its form shimmering between light and shadow. Its eyes, deep and ancient, fixed on Vrax. "You dared to touch him." The voice echoed not just in the room but deep within Vrax's mind. What are you?" Vrax stammered, his confidence crumbling. "I am what protects him," the being replied. "That child holds the essence of creation within him. And you tried to corrupt it." Back on Earth, Daniel's body relaxed, the pain in his head fading. He opened his eyes, now filled with a soft, golden glow. "Daniel?" Mrs. Collins whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I saw something," Daniel said softly. "A place with stars, and a big shadow. But someone helped me." Mrs. Collins shivered. She didn't know who, or what, was protecting Daniel, but it was clear the boy wasn't alone. High above Earth, the alien fleet began to crumble. The ethereal being had unleashed a silent wave of energy, short-circuiting entire systems across the mothership. Ships spiraled out of control, some crashing into each other, others plummeting toward distant moons. Vrax, crawling through the debris, realized the truth. "This isn't a child," he whispered, "it's a vessel, for something far greater." But it was too late. The being turned its gaze on him, its form growing brighter. "Leave this world, or be erased." Vrax didn't hesitate. He scrambled to his command console, slamming the retreat orders. The remaining ships warped away, leaving Earth in eerie silence. Back on Earth, Daniel looked up at the sky, watching as the dark specks disappeared. "Are they gone?" he asked softly. Mrs. Collins knelt beside him, holding his hand. "For now, dear. But, there's something special about you, isn't there?" Daniel nodded slowly. "I think I'm supposed to protect people. Even if I don't know how yet." And with that, a gentle breeze swept through Havenbrook, as if the universe itself had taken a deep breath, relieved, for now, that Earth was safe. But deep in the cosmos, other forces had taken notice. And Daniel's journey was only beginning. Night had fallen over Havenbrook, but the town wasn't at peace. Mrs. Collins sat by Daniel's bedside, watching him sleep. His small chest rose and fell rhythmically, but his peaceful expression did little to ease her worry. The events of the past days played over in her mind, the sky tearing apart, the alien ships, the unbelievable power that had erupted from Daniel. "Who are you?" she whispered, brushing a stray hair from his forehead. But Daniel stirred, his brow furrowing as if locked in a dream. Inside his mind, Daniel stood in an endless void. Stars swirled around him, constellations forming and dissolving like waves on the shore. A soft, golden light illuminated the darkness, and from it, the same ethereal figure appeared, the one that had shattered the mind leech. "Daniel," the figure spoke, its voice both gentle and thunderous. "You are waking. Who are you?" Daniel asked, his small voice echoing through the emptiness. "I am your protector. But now, you must learn to protect yourself." Daniel's hands trembled. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." The figure knelt, its glowing eyes meeting his. "Your power isn't meant to harm, it's meant to heal, to create, to defend. But others will seek it. They will come for you again." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. "I'm just a kid. I don't know how to stop them." The figure smiled softly. "You don't have to, not yet. But your strength will grow. And when the time comes, you'll know what to do." Before Daniel could respond, the void began to collapse around him, the stars blinking out one by one. "Wake up, Daniel. They're here." Daniel shot up in bed, gasping for air. Mrs. Collins was already at the window, peeking through the curtains. "Daniel, she whispered urgently, more of them. In the woods. Daniel slid off the bed and ran to the window. A dim, bluish glow pulsed between the trees outside town. Not ships, he murmured. They're sending something else. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the walls of the house. Out in the woods, creatures began emerging from swirling portals, tall, skeletal figures wrapped in dark, metallic armor. Their eyes glowed red, and long, curved blades protruded from their forearms. These were the Harvesters, ancient weapons created by the same race that built the Mind Leech. Silent, emotionless, they moved like shadows, spreading out toward Havenbrook. But they weren't hunting the town. They were hunting Daniel. Mrs. Collins grabbed Daniel's hand. We need to run. But Daniel shook his head. I can feel them. They're looking for me. Then we'll hide. They'll find me no matter where I go, he interrupted, his voice trembling. I can't let them hurt anyone else. Before she could protest, a blinding light erupted from Daniel's chest, a soft, golden glow that pulsed with warmth. The house trembled as the energy expanded outward, creating a dome of light around them. Daniel! Mrs. Collins gasped. I think I can stop them, he whispered, closing his eyes. Out in the woods, the Harvesters paused, their heads turning toward the golden dome. One of them raised its arm, firing a beam of dark energy at the shield. The beam struck the barrier, and bounced off, shattering a tree nearby. But then, the ground began to shake. From beneath the earth, massive roots erupted, glowing with the same golden light as Daniel's shield. The roots twisted and coiled, wrapping around the Harvesters, pulling them into the soil like weeds being torn from a garden. The creatures struggled, slicing at the tendrils, but the roots were too strong. One by one, the Harvesters were dragged underground, their metallic bodies crushed under the weight of the earth. Back inside the house, Daniel collapsed to his knees, panting heavily. Mrs. Collins knelt beside him. You did that? I don't know how, Daniel whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks. It just happened. She pulled him into a tight hug. You're stronger than you think, Daniel. And you're not alone. But high above Earth, deep within the alien command vessel, Commander Vrax watched the scene unfold through a massive viewscreen. The image of Daniel glowing with golden light reflected in his cold, reptilian eyes. So, the child's awakening has begun, he murmured. Another officer stepped forward. Commander, if his powers continue to grow, we won't be able to contain him. Vrax sneered. Then we won't contain him. We'll force him to come to us. He pressed a clawed finger to a nearby control panel, activating a dark, swirling portal above Earth's orbit. Begin the final phase. The portal grew larger, crackling with energy. Something massive stirred within, a force even Daniel might not be ready to face. The morning sun peeked over Havenbrook, casting a golden hue across the sleepy town, but for Daniel and Mrs. Collins, the night's events still weighed heavily. Daniel sat on the porch steps, his knees hugged tightly to his chest. He stared out at the distant woods, where the battle had taken place. The ground still bore the scars, splintered trees, scorched earth, but there was an eerie peace now, as if nature itself had paused, waiting for what would come next. Mrs. Collins emerged from the house carrying 2 mugs of hot cocoa. She handed one to Daniel, who wrapped his small hands around it. Didn't think I'd be drinking cocoa after a night like that, she said with a weak smile, trying to lighten the mood. Daniel managed a small grin but quickly looked down. It's not over, is it? She hesitated. No. But we have time to figure this out. Daniel sipped his cocoa, the warmth doing little to calm the storm inside him. I felt something, when I used my powers last night. Like there was someone guiding me. But now it's gone. Mrs. Collins placed a hand on his shoulder. You've got more strength in you than you realize. And you're not alone, Daniel. I'm here. We'll get through this together. He nodded, but deep down, he felt the weight of the unknown pressing harder than ever. High above Earth, within the alien command vessel, Commander Vrax stood before the swirling portal. The dark energy rippled, revealing glimpses of colossal shapes moving inside, entities that hadn't been seen on Earth in millennia. Have the preparations been completed? Vrax asked. An alien officer bowed. Yes, Commander. The Rift Behemoth is ready for deployment. Once unleashed, the boy will have no choice but to reveal the full extent of his power. Vrax's lips curled into a cruel smile. Good. The child's awakening is accelerating faster than predicted. But his mind remains fragile. Push him hard enough, and he'll either break, or become the weapon we need. He turned back to the swirling portal. Release the behemoth. The portal widened, dark tendrils of energy spiraling outward. From the depths, a monstrous shadow emerged, a towering, multi-limbed creature, its body covered in jagged armor plates. Glowing red veins pulsed beneath its surface, and multiple glowing eyes scanned the void. The Rift Behemoth stepped forward, its enormous claws tearing through spacetime as it crossed into Earth's atmosphere. Back in Havenbrook, a low rumble shook the ground, knocking over nearby trash cans and sending birds fleeing into the sky. Mrs. Collins leapt to her feet, her heart racing. What now? Daniel clutched his head, feeling an intense, throbbing pulse in his mind. It's here. Something massive. They both turned toward the horizon, where dark storm clouds gathered unnaturally fast. A swirling vortex formed at the center, and from it, the colossal form of the Rift Behemoth descended, its massive feet slamming into a clearing just beyond the town limits. The earth cracked under its weight. Its multiple glowing eyes scanned the landscape before settling on Havenbrook. Daniel stood, his legs trembling. It's looking for me. Mrs. Collins grabbed his hand. We need to go. We can't fight that. But Daniel didn't move. I have to. Daniel, no. That thing will kill you, she shouted. He shook his head, tears streaming down his face. If I don't stop it, everyone in Havenbrook will be hurt. The golden glow began to form again around him, stronger than before. In the clearing, the Rift Behemoth raised one of its massive arms, charging a dark energy sphere that crackled with destructive force. Before it could release it, a golden streak shot across the sky, slamming into the behemoth's side. Daniel hovered in midair, surrounded by a radiant aura, his small hands glowing with pure energy. The behemoth staggered but quickly turned its focus to him, unleashing the charged energy sphere. Daniel thrust out his hands, creating a shimmering barrier, but the impact sent shockwaves rippling across the forest. The barrier cracked under the immense force, but Daniel pushed harder, his golden aura intensifying. I can't let it through. I can't. Back in town, Mrs. Collins watched from a distance, shielding her eyes from the blinding light. Come on, Daniel. You can do this, she whispered, clutching her locket, a small photo of her late husband inside. Above the battlefield, Commander Vrax watched through the ship's view screen. Remarkable, he murmured. The boy's power is increasing exponentially. He's adapting. One of his officers spoke nervously. But, he's holding his own against the behemoth. Should we intervene? Vrax's eyes narrowed. No. Let him struggle. The more pressure we apply, the more his true power will surface. Then, and only then, will we strike. Daniel pushed with everything he had, sweat dripping down his face. The behemoth's energy attack dissipated, but the creature roared, charging at him with frightening speed for its size. I can't hold it. Daniel cried out. Suddenly, the same ethereal figure from his dreams appeared beside him, floating effortlessly in the air. You're not alone, Daniel, the figure said. You were never alone. With a wave of its hand, the golden energy around Daniel expanded, encasing both him and the behemoth in a massive sphere of light. Now, the figure instructed, focus on your heart. Your power comes from within, not from anger or fear, but from love and protection. Daniel closed his eyes, thinking of Mrs. Collins, the friends he'd made in Havenbrook, and the peaceful days before the invasion. A surge of energy erupted from him, far stronger than before. His body levitated higher, his aura now radiating with brilliant golden light. The behemoth hesitated, sensing the shift, but before it could retreat, Daniel thrust both hands forward. A beam of pure light shot from his palms, piercing through the behemoth's chest. The creature let out a guttural roar before disintegrating into dust, the golden sphere collapsing around them. Daniel floated gently to the ground, exhausted but alive. From the ship, Commander Vrax stood silent, watching the destruction of the rift behemoth. His power has surpassed our expectations, an officer murmured. Vrax clenched his claws. And now, he's ready. He turned, activating another dark portal, this one swirling with even more volatile energy. Prepare the extraction team. It's time to bring the boy home. The sky above Havenbrook darkened as the last remnants of the rift behemoth disintegrated into the air. Daniel stood motionless, panting, his golden aura now barely a flicker. His body ached, but it wasn't just the physical exhaustion that weighed him down, it was the uncertainty, the fear of what came next. The once peaceful town had been transformed into a battlefield, and the forces arrayed against them were far from finished. Daniel knew the battle was far from over. Mrs. Collins approached him cautiously, her face filled with concern. Daniel, are you okay? He nodded weakly, his voice barely a whisper. I think so. But, they're coming, aren't they? She didn't respond immediately, but her silence was enough. Far above the town, the alien command ship continued its ominous orbit. The portal within its depths swirled with a dark, almost hypnotic energy, a prelude to the final phase of their invasion. Inside the ship, Commander Vrax observed the spectacle through his armored visor. His features twisted into a malevolent grin. The boy's strength is impressive. But it's his mind that remains fragile. Once we push him far enough, he will break, or he will give us everything we need. He turned to his officers, who stood at attention. The boy's power is growing exponentially, and we can't risk further delay. Prepare the final wave. At his command, the Destruction Legion, a battalion of hyper-advanced alien warriors, descended into the atmosphere. Their armor was a sleek, metallic gray, adorned with ominous red symbols, and their weapons crackled with energy as they touched down outside Havenbrook. The earth trembled under their weight. These were no ordinary soldiers, they were genetically engineered for one purpose, annihilation. Back in the town, Daniel could sense their arrival before anyone else. His heart raced, the pressure building in his chest. He could feel the dark energy, the destructive force, descending upon them. I have to stop them. I can't let them hurt anyone else, he said, more to himself than to Mrs. Collins. She reached out, grabbing his arm. Daniel, you don't have to do this alone. We're in this together. But he shook his head, pulling away gently. No. You've already done so much for me. I can't keep dragging you into this. Mrs. Collins' eyes softened, a mixture of pride and fear in her gaze. You're stronger than you think. But remember, strength isn't just about power. It's about who you protect and why you fight. Daniel looked at her, his mind racing. The words were simple, yet they struck deep. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for her, for Havenbrook, for the world that didn't even know it was in danger. With newfound resolve, Daniel stood tall, his body surrounded by flickers of golden light. The energy surged within him, though he could feel the strain. He had to reach deep, deeper than he ever had before. Outside Havenbrook, the Destruction Legion advanced. Their leader, a towering warrior with glowing red eyes, motioned to his soldiers. Focus on the child. He is the key. Destroy everything in our path, but ensure the boy is captured alive. With a single command, the battle began. Daniel could feel their approach, each step thundering through the earth. The ground quaked, and a blast of energy ripped through the air, aimed directly at him. He raised his hands instinctively, creating a shimmering barrier to absorb the blow, but the force was almost too much. The impact sent him stumbling backward, but he quickly regained his balance. He had to act, and quickly. He clenched his fists, and a pulse of golden energy shot outward, creating a shockwave that knocked several of the soldiers off their feet. But they quickly recovered, their armor absorbing most of the impact. They were relentless, and their weapons were unlike anything he'd faced before. Daniel's chest heaved with exertion. I can't keep this up forever. Then, from the shadows, a familiar figure emerged, Mrs. Collins. She wasn't running for cover. She wasn't hiding. She was standing firm, a determined look in her eyes. Daniel, she shouted. You don't have to do this alone. We fight together. Her voice cut through the tension like a lifeline, and something in Daniel's heart stirred. He wasn't alone. She believed in him. The golden energy around him flared, reaching its peak. He could feel her presence, her support, amplifying his power. And it was enough. He raised his hands high, and the ground beneath him erupted as a surge of energy shot outward, enveloping the entire battlefield. The soldiers staggered, caught off guard by the sheer force of the attack. But the Destruction Legion was not finished. Their leader, the largest of them all, charged forward, his energy blade crackling with deadly intent. You cannot stop us, child, he bellowed. You are nothing against the might of the Legion. Daniel stood tall, his gaze unwavering. He was exhausted, but his resolve was stronger than ever. I may be small, but I'm not alone. And that's all I need. With a shout, he released the full extent of his power. A blinding golden light shot from his body, engulfing the entire area. The Destruction Legion leader raised his weapon, but it was no match for the overwhelming energy. The blast struck him directly, and he screamed in agony before collapsing, his body disintegrating into dust. The remaining soldiers faltered, their morale shattered. And then, silence. Daniel stood alone amidst the wreckage, breathing heavily. His heart pounded in his chest, but the world around him was quiet. He had won, for now. The dust of the battlefield had settled, but the tension in the air was palpable. Daniel stood alone, surrounded by the wreckage of the alien forces he had just defeated. The ground around him was scarred and burned, a silent testament to the power he had unleashed. Despite the triumph, there was no relief, only the heavy weight of what was to come next. His body was exhausted, and his mind was racing. He had just faced down the most terrifying army humanity had ever seen, but now there was something even worse on the horizon. The final weapon that Commander Vrax had ordered was still coming, and Daniel knew that no matter how strong he had become, this next battle would push him further than ever before. He was about to take a step forward when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked up to see Mrs. Collins, her face filled with both pride and concern. You did it, Daniel, she said softly. But there's one more thing we need to do. He nodded, exhaustion written all over his face. I know. It's not over. Not yet. They turned to the horizon, where the alien command ship was regrouping, preparing for a final strike. A low rumble reverberated through the ground as the portal within the ship began to open once again, but this time, something felt different. This is it, Daniel muttered. The final weapon. Mrs. Collins looked at him, her expression resolute. But we're not alone. You've shown us what humanity is capable of. You've shown us that when we fight together, we can overcome anything. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. The truth of them was undeniable. He had started this journey thinking he was just a boy with a strange gift, someone unworthy of this kind of power. But now, after everything, he understood. He was not alone. He had people who believed in him. People who would stand beside him no matter the odds. The golden energy around him flickered to life once more, stronger this time, fed by the collective hope and strength of everyone around him. Mrs. Collins stepped back, giving him the space he needed, but her presence still anchored him. She was his reminder that there was more to this battle than just power, it was about what he fought for. The alien ship above released a beam of concentrated energy toward the ground. Daniel felt the pulse of it before he saw it. It was a destructive wave of pure force, and it was coming straight for Havenbrook. But Daniel was ready. With a shout, he thrust his hands forward, the golden light flaring with a blinding intensity. The beam from the alien ship collided with his energy barrier, and for a moment, the two forces clashed in an epic struggle. The ground beneath Daniel's feet cracked and splintered as the power from both sides pushed against each other.